Today is the second day of the September 93 7-day retreat at Springwater. Several questions have come up that are good to discuss right at the beginning of a retreat. Actually, I did forget yesterday to talk about pain and about sitting in a relaxed way for a talk, or at all times if possible. Particularly during the talk, which may last sometimes up to an hour, do find a comfortable position using as many cushions as you need, or chair, or leaning against the walls. It's also quite all right to change your posture during sitting. If so, then do it quietly, because there are people around us who are listening. It takes a lot of energy to talk and to listen and to look together. And if there's no pain in the body that has to be dealt with, that may be overwhelming, then it's easier to listen to a talk. That is why it's particularly helpful to be in a relaxed state for listening. Now, this question of pain did come up yesterday. Someone mentioning this tremendous back pain while sitting, which can become so strong it seems to block out everything else. Could I comment on that? And the first thing I said, like I did right now, can you find a comfortable position or chair or posture which minimizes the pain? Also, we do not require anyone to sit round after round after round. The last one was unbearable with pain, then use the next one for walking or sitting in a comfortable chair on the balcony or in the dining room, or lying down flat on your bed. Nothing needs to terminate in getting up. A listening, feeling, looking mind sits and gets up and walks and sits down in a more comfortable chair or lies down. It need not disturb the attention. But then what if it happens in the middle of a round? We have 25 minutes here. This overwhelming pain in the back or in the knees, wherever. And we've sort of agreed to each other not to get up unless absolutely necessary. Then to get up and leave the room, that's all right. But the person asking the question was also interested in how does one deal with pain? In the midst of wind and crows, how does one deal with pain? That's a way of putting it. We talk like that. But I will not posit a dealer someone who has the pain and then does something about it. That's already an assumption created by our collective thinking and language. But here is what we call this pain, which seems to become more and more unbearable. What is it? And by what is it, I don't mean to question it away, but to question into it. What is pain? We may have had a sore back for a good part of our life. I remember myself having tremendous back pains in my teens, in school, having to lie down in between classes because of this falsely bent back or spine. And in the first retreat that I attended, there was the pain, of course. I knew it was going to be there. I already anticipated it. And being there, knowing it, there was all kinds of anticipation that it would get worse, and how will I ever be able to finish this session? Will I be able to? And then it occurred, all on its own, that maybe I didn't know this thing at all. It seemed very clear at the moment that what I knew was memory of past pain. And with that memory came more unbearableness. Because I knew it was unbearable. I knew it was going to get worse. I knew the name for it, the diagnosis. But what was this right now? This question suggested itself very innocently and brought about a new way of being, which later on I felt was this non-separation that was talked about so much. There was just what was there, and it wasn't known, it wasn't labeled, it wasn't reacted to from memory. All of that was felt to be extra, and extra is our separation. The feeling I have it, I'm suffering from it, I'm the victim of it, I have to do something about it, or I won't be able to do anything about it. Can one get a feeling that all of this makes for separation? All of this thinking and remembering, reacting. So, if I don't know it, if there is no knowing, not going by the label which suggests itself so quickly, this is my old pain. See it for a label. It is not what's going on here. What's going on here is what? The sound of wind in the trees is not those words. They're beautiful words. One can image it. Tree waving. But what's actually going on in the back and in the tree is not the word. It's not the knowledge. It's something entirely different. What is it? The words can't help me with that, but they can hinder, because they keep this body enclosed in its conditioned reflexes of resistance, anger, frustration, despair. Whereas not knowing what it is, inside, outside, brings about a new opening, a fresh listening, which has nothing to separate from or to separate with. It may become quite clear that the listening and the sound of crickets and wind and backache is one undivided process of happening, or one undivided happening. Aching, chirping, blowing, breathing. Not the words. The words need to be used because we're talking with each other. But what are the words expressing? What are they pointing at? I don't know, do I? And yet there's an interest to find out, to be in touch. Which may open up into a new listening, looking, sensing. Immediately. Actually, what happened at the time of that first day of Sesshin was it got warm in the back from giving attention to it, attending. And something changed. Not that the pain went away, but there was a fresh energy. Which includes everything and excludes nothing. So can one wake up to the fact how the mind is churning about something, in this case pain, thinking about it, reacting to it, and questioning that process altogether? Whether it really has anything to do with what is actually happening. And what is that? Because the thoughts are also happening. But they're enclosing and separating from something else. Thinking about pain is not being in touch with pain. And being in touch with pain is not just being in touch with word and memory. What is it? Several people asked on the first day, is there any practice that you recommend here? I have meditated and I have a meditation practice which has been very helpful to calm the mind. One person mentioned paying attention to the breathing always being the anchor, and then the mind darts off into this and that, becoming aware of being lost in thought, back to the breathing, to the anchor. This is how it was described. And someone else described counting, exhalations. And if the count gets lost because thought has captivated the mind, then to go back to one. And that person who mentioned that said, it seems by always going back to one, what is implied is that I shouldn't be thinking, that thinking is wrong. Should be stopped, interrupted, replaced with something else, like counting. Of course, counting is also a form of thinking. So, do we recommend a practice here? No, we don't. If that is what you wish to do, continue with the practice or refine it. This is entirely up to each one. There are no rules or guidelines on what to do. But we do talk in morning talks about what is pain, for instance, or listening to the airplane in the wind. And maybe realizing the word airplane and wind is not what's going on. We talk about that, but it's not a practice. Sometimes people say, now I feel I am supposed to listen. That question actually is put very frequently too. I come here, I sit down, and I wonder, what am I supposed to do? It's an amazing question that we ask, isn't it? It is worth looking into. What am I supposed to do here? In this room, outside on a bench, or walking in the woods, what am I supposed to do? What comes to mind right now is a little 2-line poem in German. I don't know whether you in this country know of the famous German poet Goethe. In Germany, everybody knows about him. I don't know whether today, but it used to be almost a semi-god, Goethe. You had to know him and recite him and quote him. Wrote beautiful things. And he was said to have had a son who was interested in nothing. Nothing that Goethe was interested in, his son was interested in, much to the dismay of his father. So he sent him to Italy, which for the Germans was the country of art and culture and Renaissance and architecture, beautiful landscape, impressive history. So this is where the son was sent, and he sent home a couplet. I'll say it in a non-poetic English translation. Here I'm standing in Rome, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Translated. Here I am in Springwater. What am I supposed to do? I'm not making fun of the question, please. Because we're so conditioned to do what we're supposed to do, at least on day 1 or 2. We want to be good. We want to conform. We want to get something. And we'll do anything that's required of us to get what we think we can obtain. Clarity, insight, enlightenment, whatever one is imagining one can get. So tell me what I'm supposed to do. Ka. it's extraordinarily difficult, or it seems that way, to just sit down and do nothing. To be with what's there, unadulteratedly. The cawing, the crickets, the breathing, the wind, the thoughts that come up in the mind. I can't do it, or I'm not good at it, I have to learn it, I have to have a practice first. Maybe later I can do it, not right now, it's chaotic. All of that is happening at the moment of sitting down. Or maybe the mind and body feel dull, tired, numb. That's what's going on at that moment. What we call dullness, or tiredness, or numbness, or boredom. And here the question is entering again. What is boredom? What is numbness or dullness? What is it? If I don't stick with a word, which is already implying judgment, I should feel differently. When whatever judgment has come up is not taken seriously, it's seen for a conditioned reflex, but not for the truth. What is this moment of numbness? There is a bird chirping, isn't there? I may be so tired that the whole body aches and just wants to spread out in the horizontal, but the bird is chirping. Not just one. Or maybe an echo, who knows? Breathing is going on, wonder of wonders. It doesn't need to be counted, it's there. We wouldn't be alive without it. We sort of gloss over it. There's the breathing, 1, 2, 3. But what is it? What is breathing in the midst of bird song and wind? And not know it. Not stick with the word breath or breathing, but wondering. Maybe feeling that movement for the first time in its all-pervasiveness. And then thought may take it away again. So what? That's also what's happening, but there's no awareness when we get involved in thought. That is a fact. Involved in certain kind of thought. About how I'm doing, how well, how poor, about fearful thoughts, pleasurable thoughts. There's involvement, and at least many people tell me, then the wind is not heard at all. The birds seem shut out. But amazingly enough, we wake up again. We stay involved or entangled so long, and then for a moment, we come to a moment of waking up to the fact that there has been fearful thought about what's going to happen to me in the future. Will I lose my job? They're cutting jobs left and right at the office, one person said, and the budget. And this constant needing to think and know, how will I be? Will I retain my job? And if not, what will happen to me? Wanting to know. What's going on? And are the birds heard? Maybe a little bit in the background, maybe not at all. The body may fill with anxiety about the thought of losing my job and not knowing whether I'll get another one. And here I wake up to the fact of having thought about my future job, my future life, and there's what I call anxiety permeating this body. What is it? I don't just want to call it that. Insecurity, anxiety, fear, frustration. What is it? Get off the word and enter into what is actually giving rise to these words. And in such entering into an aching belly, stomach cramping up, heart palpitating faster, in entering with an open, listening mind, which is gentle. It is not violent. It doesn't want to get rid of this anxiety. It wonders what it is. In that gentle openness, the birds are there again. Are they? Maybe it's not even a bird, maybe it's a giant cicada, who knows? Never quite heard this before. What's the word? Now it stopped. So are we capable, conditioned as we are, thought-ridden as we are, and that whole network of thought linking with emotion, involved and entangled as we are most of the time in something or other, negative feelings, positive feelings, and all the things I have to do and get done, maybe not so much here, that slows down in a retreat, but at home. All the things I need to get done in a day, we talked about that too. Are we capable, in the midst of this way of living, which is our human way of living, burdened, conditioned, reflexive, reactionary, easily overwhelmed by emotions, are we capable to sit in the midst of it and wonder what this all is all about? Not about, it's not a good way of putting it. What is it? Sit in the midst of chaos, as it were. Without a method of tackling chaos. Maybe for moments at a time becoming more intimate with chaos, with the way things are from moment to moment. The breathing is always there in a moment of attention. And so are wind and birds, warmth and cold, heartbeat, physical sensations is always there. Are we impatient with the fact that most of the time we're not present? That's how it is. Most of the time, the mind is all over the place, and the body follows along. Sometimes it starts with the body and the thoughts follow along. It's intertwined, inseparable. Sometimes I've used the metaphor of a muddy puddle, which is how it feels when one wakes up to boredom, dullness, numbness, and all of these thoughts and emotions all over the place. And wanting to do something about this muddy puddle is like taking a stick and stirring around in it. What happens? More sediment loosened and swirling around. So is sitting quietly in the midst of a swirling, muddy puddle, does that allow some settling out? Things are seen, thoughts are noticed, emotions are felt, pain is sensed freshly. Ideas and their powerful impact on the body may be discerned for moments at a time. One idea may arise about how good I am or how poor I am, and the body responds, either with an up energy or a down energy. And that can be observed in the midst of it all. Glimpsed in the beginning, just glimpsed briefly. It may not just remain brief glimpses, because awareness has a way of stabilizing. Which means more settling out, more clarity of what is happening. For moments at a time, more frequently, maybe a little bit longer duration, not to be concerned with time, but to manifest this infinite patience. Which may come for a moment if one realizes, as one person mentioned to me this morning, that the universe is 15 billion years old. And of that, human beings, I think if I remember it right, are about 2 million years old. And here we're entering a quiet week, and immediately want things to change, to be different, to be otherwise than what took 15 billion years to bring about. Maybe all that's left to do is not to do anything, but to listen and look and pause here and there without immediately interfering with what is revealed. The chaos. We're using the word, but we were also more descriptive about it. And it's for each one of us not to just stick with the word chaos, but to be in touch. All these uncountable movements permeating, pervading, originating with this body-mind. With which I'm not saying don't count your breathing or don't come back to it. I don't understand that, because one can never come back to anything. That breathing, when we fell asleep, is gone long ago. There's a new one now. So you're not coming back to anything, you're just waking up to a fresh breathing, which is unknowable. There's nothing wrong with thinking this is my anchor, this is something I can listen to in the midst of chaos or count it. There have been multiple studies showing that any repetitious activity of counting or repeating of a word, or doing whatever with the breathing, maybe voicing a koan on the exhalation. There's studies which show that has a tranquilizing effect on the brain. And more doctors, hospitals, patients are finding out the benefits of meditating in this way to bring about more tranquility than any drugs have done, or even release or relief of pain. Been recently series on television by Bill Moyers, very impressive, about clinics inside hospitals where patients are referred to who are not treatable elsewhere in the hospital, to do meditation and yoga to calm the mind and body, relieve the stress, reduce the pain. So one can experiment with that. And one may find it works for me too. But in addition to stress reduction or pain relief or tranquilizing the brain momentarily, it doesn't usually last very long, because one thought about what he said to me or what she did to me yesterday can get the whole system going again. We talked about that almost an hour yesterday in a group. So, beyond this ability to tranquilize, calm down, is there also an interest to find out what is going on with us? Not to do anything about it, but to let it open up, unfold, be seen and heard and felt, and not tinkered with, not repressed, nor accepted, just allowed to be in the midst of sunshine and wind and insect calls and birds flying. And for this looking and listening, pausing, I know no practice except letting it happen, and again and again. Waking up, as far as I understand it myself, has no cause. It just happens to human beings, which is a miracle in itself. No matter how heavily conditioned and reflexive our thinking and acting and behaving is, there can be a moment of waking up to the fact that this was an involuntary, mechanical reaction of anger or fear. Where did it come from? Is that what I am? A whole accumulation of mechanical reflexes and reactions? The self-image may say, wait a minute, I'm not. I'm much more than that. I'm not reflexive and conditioned. Don't say that to me. But in waking up instantly, instantaneously, what reverberates in the memory is a very conditioned response that was just taking place, a thought about something fearful, and the body already manifesting all kinds of symptoms. And one wasn't even aware of the connection, maybe not even in touch with the fear, numb to it. And we can become aware of what's going on in this body-mind, painful and joyful. If we don't immediately try to do something about it, or evaluate it, or judge it. After this false alarm, where are we? There was one more thing I had wanted to talk about. Maybe we will go into it further on another day. A very repetitive mechanism in the brain, which one may become aware of very succinctly in sitting quietly. A repetitive questioning, how am I doing? Am I doing all right? Am I doing wrong? Am I getting somewhere? Am I making progress? Can one begin to hear that as just that? A very mechanical, repetitive thing? Inviting us to think about it and to figure out in thought what is right and wrong, progress. In sitting quietly, we don't have to know how we're doing. There is no right and wrong, good or bad. There's only simply what is. And what is that? I don't know. We will end here for today.